A very good evening to all of you and a warm welcome to our 9th local elections debate. My name is Vuyo Mvoko, your host for this debate series. These discussions, of course, brought to you by the SABC in partnership with the University of Johannesburg. Tonight we're asking the question, just how serious is the commitment of our political parties in promoting women's rights and advancing gender equality? And to help us answer this question are women who have served in senior positions in some of these political parties. And representing the ANC today is the Women's League representative, CD Mfikwe. Well, next to her is the Democratic Alliance's Lindiwe Mazibuko. And of course, representing the National Freedom Party is Ms. Zanele Magwaza Gamsidi. And the minority front is represented this evening by Shamin Rajbansi, their Women's League leader. Ladies, welcome to you all. Of course, we do have a reference panel consisting of women who have taken it upon themselves to promote women's rights and to fight for gender equality. We will introduce them to you a little later. Let me start with you, Ms. Mfikwe. As far as the ANC is concerned, what is your party doing to advance women's rights and gender equality?
Well, thank you. Let me take the opportunity to thank you for being part of the panel. As all of us would know, the ANC has been advocating over a period of years the equal representation of women in all positions, in all decision-making processes. So we are, as the ANC, very clear of what we want to do. We want our women to be able to take decisions that are ensuring that people have a better life for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Masibuko?
Vuyo, in the Democratic Alliance, we believe that because issues of social injustice, social problems, health, HIV, AIDS, safety and security, because all of these problems disproportionately affect women, the role of the government is to make sure that it addresses them systematically with a specific focus on the issues that touch women the hardest, things like sexual violence and family abuse, things like HIV, AIDS infection, and other measures which are aimed at improving the lives of women. That is the only way we can ever see a situation in this country where women are on an equal platform with women. So long as women are treated as victims or as possessions or as things to be used by men, then we cannot talk about advancing the equality of women. And that doesn't just happen in high places. We have to make sure it happens in the broader society, and the responsibility of the government is to deliver services properly to women in order to make sure this happens.
Your position, please.
The National Freedom Party is a new party. We are 2 months old today. It is the party for all South Africans, irrespective of where they are, irrespective of gender and social status. But the National Freedom Party is the party that is going to be more vocal on women issues. It is the party that is going to be sympathetic towards women and children, and also those who are the poorest of the poor. Therefore, our position as the National Freedom Party is to ensure that as we start, we are going to engage aggressively all women of this country to educate them, to train them, and to empower them about their rights, because rights of women are also human rights, are rights of all South Africans in this country. We are going to ensure, we had a conference early this month where we had all women of the National Freedom Party, where we were educating them about their rights and also the position that they have to take, because we want to ensure that all our women are present and are participating in all decision-making positions, because that is where we are lacking as a country.
Ms. Rajbansi, the minority front view.
Thank you. As a Minority Front, we are well grounded in community work. We work with women daily. We plan with women first before we take their issues to different levels of government. But most importantly, for a small party like ours, we, from 2009, we adopted a five-pronged approach which is focused on women's issues. The two have to do with our constitution, and that is for social equality as well as equality of opportunities, which affects women and their status, many legal issues, as well as women in the workplace. But also we work very hard at local government level to make sure that the indigent policy is implemented, because proper policies for women is very important. Basic services gives women dignity, housing opportunities, sanitation, water, lights. These are the important issues at the heart of women. But most importantly, recently we've been concentrating on the 5 Millennium Development Goals that our country has adopted, and each of these goals here are at the heart of women's issues, whether it's poverty, inequality, education, or whether it's maternal health or child mortality. And we are very focused on these issues in order to see change and to make a difference. Also, we know that women's rights are human rights. We are focusing on one part of the Constitution, and that is the developmental role and duties as espoused in the Constitution for municipalities. And in this election, we are going to make sure that these duties are upheld and that our Planning Commission takes this into account, because this is what is going to help all women. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, let me start very quickly with the ANC. Ms. Mfikwe, you will recall that a few weeks ago, members of the ANC Women's League were registered their unhappiness with the lists that were at the time, that had been prepared at the time, and that were going to be submitted to the IEC. The fact that they were, in fact, not as representative of women as they would have wanted. You would have thought that for an organization like the ANC, those things people would take for granted, that they don't need to remind the African National Congress to be sensitive to gender equality. What happened there?
We live in a patriarchal society. From time to time, we need to remind our colleagues in the ANC and everybody that deals with human rights that as women, our issues cannot be relegated to some afterthought. So for the Women's League to have stood up and said, we need proper women representative, it is our right as women, and we're not just speaking for the ANC, we're speaking for the whole womankind in the country. I guess, of course, we pride ourselves in the fact that there are women in leadership positions, women who are able to take decisions. I would give you a case in point in the city of Johannesburg, of which I'm a member of. In the Mayoral Committee of the city, there are 10 people, 10 men and 10 women. And these women occupy very serious decision-making positions. I'm standing in front of these people in the country. I'm an MMC for environment. Part of my responsibilities is to ensure that there are safe parks for women, where women can take their kids, you know. So we have our president of the Women's League, who is the Minister of Education. Education is a very important aspect in the country. So that shows that as much as we wouldn't be completely happy, but the ANC is making a point and ensuring that women issues and representation is taken ahead. So with the ANC and the Youth League, for that matter, we will work with the ANC in ensuring that issues of women and the Youth League are put on the table and not forgotten from time to time. So I guess as an organization, we needed to say to our leaders, please remember, we have a commitment to ensure that there is proper, equal and meaningful contribution that women need to do. So we are not fighting with the ANC. We were saying, let us fulfill and implement that resolution that we took together.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, if you just joined us, you're watching and listening to a special election debate brought to you by the SABC in partnership with the University of Johannesburg. Tonight, we're asking the question, just how serious is the commitment of our political parties in promoting women's rights and advancing gender equality? We're going to take a very quick break, and we're back with this debate after this break.
worst. If you or a family member were to pass away right now, is there enough money for the funeral? At Hollard, we get you and cover you and your partner for up to 50,000 Rand for burial expenses. And to make arranging the funeral easier, we now offer you access to a car. You also have the option of your family receiving up to 1,200 Rand a month for a year after the funeral. Lastly, we offer you up to 10,000 Rand to erect a tombstone as a remembrance. SMS your name or send a please call me to 082-936-7777. That's 082-936-7777.
Germs? Our empire of sickness stretches all over the bathroom. But why is it in danger? Anyone? Anyone? Oh, what's this?
Just one capful of thick, powerful Domestos cleans all surfaces in the bathroom and kills germs and viruses on contact.
There is no way to hide.
Domestos kills all known germs dead everywhere.
Holiday time certainly has changed since Ultramel first arrived on the scene. Party dresses got shorter, toys became brighter and louder, hair went big, bigger, and then optional. The family living room swapped that old black and white for an HD flat screen. And while the idea of a traditional South African holiday might be changing, the one thing everyone agrees on is that nothing says Easter holiday like Ultramel.
Last year, 2010, more than 13,000 people were killed on South African roads. 244 died from Easter Friday to Easter Monday. More than 1,000 people are killed on our roads each month. Let each road user ask themselves, which 1,000 is it going to be this month? Let us keep our roads safe.
To start somewhere.
Are you ready to begin?
Find out how a man becomes a crime-fighting legend.
Impressive.
What did they tell you this place was?
Where are you? Here. What the hell are you? I'm Batman.
In the action flick, Batman Begins.
So what I do, it defines me.
Sunday at 8, super hot action on SABC1. Mzansi for sure.
Welcome back. Well, our reporters went around South Africa asking whether South Africans thought political parties take women's rights seriously and are doing their best to advance gender equality. This is what they had to say.
In an ideal world, we'd want to see that women, who are the majority of the electorate, are also the majority of political representatives. And that's not the case. It's the other way around. There are more women than men who vote, but there are more men than women in positions of political power. Is it fair after 18 years? Yes. I think after 18 years we've done a fantastic job as a country to bring about a viable democracy. Is it good enough? No, of course not. What we would like is gender equality.
I can assure you, if you went out into communities and asked people generally, and asked women in particular, and said, "What do you expect from these political parties?" They'll tell you they'll tell you, "I want adequate water, sanitation, electricity," and until you say to them, "And then as a woman, what would you like to have?" So I don't think we have reached a point where we start thinking in terms of I, as a woman, would be better served.
We need more progressive commitment to enshrine the rights of women in quota systems that are across political parties. And I think that there has been quite a lot of work that's been done around integrating women through the integrated development process, but that there's still quite a lot that's wanting in terms of mainstreaming women's issues in the IDP process.
What we feel is we need, our political parties, they need to listen more because they're not listening. We write and we give them information, but it never, I don't know if they don't get it, and that's the issue where we feel the gatekeepers. The political parties need to actually sensitize, educate and train the people who actually receive information from the general public.
It's very imperative that women do play a bigger role within parties.
Voices of women talking about how they feel about tonight's topic. Let me start with you, Ms. Mazibuko. Your leader, Ms. Helen Zille, when she appointed her provincial cabinet, there was an outcry, you will remember, about the fact that it was an all-male cabinet. What actually happened there was one would have thought that a party that is being led by a woman would be sensitive to such things.
What actually happened was that whole discourse surrounding the 10 members of Helen Zille's cabinet, first of all, didn't take into account the fact that the Premier who was doing the appointing was a woman. But it did give the DA a chance to have an introspection and ask ourselves what we can do to advance the number of women, the representatives on our public representatives lists who are women, in order to make sure that we are more representative of South Africa's diversity. And what we found was that in the Western Cape, in fact, there were only 3 women on the provincial list. All of the wonderful, talented, experienced women of the Western Cape chose to run on the national list. And of course, we don't deploy cadres in the DA. We let people choose where they want to go. And many of them chose to go to the National Assembly. Since then, we've had a lot of introspection. We've thought about it and we've engaged on this matter. And in the years since then, a number of prominent women leaders have emerged strong within the DA. People like Gwen Ngwenya, who's the president of the DASO SRC at the University of Cape Town. Mbali Ntuli, who's the DA youth chairperson. Patricia de Lille has just joined our ranks and she is now a member of the cabinet. I myself am the national spokesperson of the DA. Women are going strong in the Democratic Alliance. And we have projects and we have initiatives to make sure that we, at the supply side, have a good influx of talented, ambitious women who want to be in politics and who are good at what they do and who want to represent the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you very much. Ms. Makwaza Msubi, you rose through the ranks within the Inkatha Freedom Party to become the national chairperson. Of course, you fell out with some of the leadership, and you now have your own party. The rest, as they say, is history. But how did you find, how was it for you to occupy such a senior position within a party that is regarded as being very traditionalist and actually very male-dominated?
Yes, of course, I must admit that in the party where I was, there were a lot of men who were still traditionalists who did not want to be having a leader as a woman. But also I must give credit to the president of the IFP because he was indeed supporting me as the national chairperson of the party at that time. But also I think it is important to acknowledge the fact that I was democratically elected by members of the party, not that some people at the helm of the party were sympathetic towards me. I was elected and they supported me as the national chairperson of the party.
Thank you very much. President Vance, the minority front's view. I mean, of course, you've had successes in Parliament. I mean, you had a lone parliamentarian for a very long time, who was very loud and who made sure that she was being heard. But what is your party doing to ensure that the rights of women are respected, to ensure that there's gender equality within your party, but also in everything that you do?
Our party has a history where Mr. Rajvanshi has been the founder leader, but over the years he has changed in many ways and has become, he's with the times now, because he knows that the days of radical feminism are over, where women were trying to liberate themselves. Now they're liberated. He understands fully that now it's about liberal feminism and what everyone is saying. It's about women wanting equality. So that equality also is within a party system. Our leader now makes sure that party lists are a fully consultative process. He makes sure that women and we in the Minority Front are reaching the goals that National Parliament sets. Initially it was 30%, which we got. In many councils we have 100% women. In most of them we have 50% women. In this Parliament, and this council elections, we are making sure that the 50% is there. Because as the women were saying in the interviews, women make up more than 50% of the population. And in this day and age, more women should become political leaders.
Can we expect a woman to succeed Amichan Rajvanshi?
Yes, you most definitely can expect that. It's a run for one's money in our party. We have very strong male contenders, but this is my third term in Parliament, and I know full well that we have groomed many women along the ranks, but the important thing is that you must also remember, and every woman will understand this, politics is not everyone's cup of tea. For women especially, it is a woman who must say that I am now happy to take leadership. I now accept leadership, because women are so passionate about whatever they do. And especially if they're going to be at the helm of a party, they're going to take it when they are ready and they are happy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, as I said to you earlier, we do have a reference panel who are sitting among us here. First of all, I'll give an opportunity now to Lisa Vetten, who is the Executive Director of Swaranang Legal Advocacy Center, an NGO that was established in 1996 to eradicate the victimization of women by the legal system and to make the law a vehicle for social change for women. Lisa, do you have comments or questions for the women who are on this podium?
I do. The first point is that we don't just want to put women into political positions for the sake of having women in political positions. We want to see them actively improving women's lives. So I have two questions for the panel. What is the concrete project or the most important step that your party is going to take to improve the lives of women at local level? And the second question I want to ask you is, what steps will you take to protect communities from the kind of police brutality that we saw in Vicksburg earlier this week? And secondly, what you're going to do to prevent the police from assisting women who go and ask to be protected from domestic violence and are turned away. I want to hear your concrete interventions to prevent that.
Thank you very much. Can we start with the ANC?
Okay, thanks, Book. I guess the police brutality, we have to stand up as communities and say enough is enough. We were all shocked by what happened in the Free State, rightly or wrongly. I don't think people are supposed to be treated that way. So together as communities, we need to hold hands and speak out clearly and very strongly against such brutalities happening. I'm happy that the Commissioner of Police is looking into the matter. He has committed to taking action against those police people. Hopefully it will be, but what is important is us as communities saying, especially women, because we could be mothers to some of those kids or some of those men, wives to those men who could be brutalized like that. So as women, there are issues that we need to speak against, united as women. Not as women from political parties, where we need to say as mothers, we're standing up, we're taking out all the caps and everything, and say as women, mothers, we are standing together. These are some of those issues that we need to be fighting against.
And does your party have any concrete project?
There are a lot of concrete projects. We have programs to fight against gender-based violence. And we are saying together with women and NGOs, we need to ensure that they actualize, We cannot be having plans and programs in paper. As I'm saying, so when we say together we can do more, we meant exactly that. We meant that as an organization alone, we are not going to be able to be dealing with societal issues. It takes a mindset to be shifted for some of the programs to really be actualized, where you're able to see concrete change. So together we can do more. We're saying we want to create better communities Together with our communities, we need to hold hands. We are...
Thank you very much. Ms. Masbuko, the DA's response to Lisa.
In terms of concrete proposals, in the city of Cape Town, the DA government launched a project in Khayelitsha in partnership with the German Development Bank. And it was called the Violence Prevention Through Urban Upgrading Project, VPUU. And its purpose was to improve the circumstances in which the community was living and improve policing and improve access to safety and security services in order to bring down the level of crime. And this has had a particular benefit for women. We've opened a Red Crisis Center there, which estimates have said have increased the reporting rate to 70%. We have launched a free legal aid clinic within the Khayelitsha court, and we are rolling out all kinds of other programs, particularly in the realm of health. Local government has a very limited mandate in respect of health, but we do have control over public clinics. So in the city of Cape Town, we're aggressively dealing with the issue of TB. We've got the highest TB cure rate in the country. And as you know, TB is very intricately linked with HIV/AIDS. These are issues which affect women disproportionately. Infection rates are higher amongst women. And in order to address these issues, local governments need to use all the levers that they have at their disposal. I don't know if I can speak about the issue of Vicksburg if there's any time.
Well, you can talk about what happened in the Free State.
Yes.
How we protect women from such.
With respect to Vicksburg, it was the DA that actually pioneered the legislation that would make the ICD a stronger unit following the closure of the Scorpions. Parliament is busy passing law now that will make the ICD, give it more teeth, make it more capable of investigating police crimes and making sure those investigations come to fruition. And that was pioneered by Diane Kohler-Barnard, who's the DA's spokesperson on police. We've also been calling for years for the reopening of the FCS units, family violence, child abuse and sexual offences units, which were closed down by the ANC government. This is a national issue, but we think it's shocking that units where specially trained police officers who are able to offer counselling, deal with victims in a sensitive and thoughtful manner were closed down, and all those talented and skilled people were pushed out into administrative positions. That, we believe, was a move which undermined the safety and security and the chances of beating violence against women in South Africa.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mama Kwazamsi, you heard what Lisa was asking.
The National Freedom Party was indeed horrified by the act of brutality of the police who shot and killed a human being, an innocent human being, in the full view of the public. As the National Freedom Party, we were surprised to learn of the comments by the ANC leaders to say that they were still going to investigate, and yet what happened is to put behind the bars those in police who were involved in such a brutality, and we are horrified to learn about that as the National Freedom Party. As a National Freedom Party, we also have some concrete programs. Going to the second question by my sister there. As the National Freedom Party, will ensure that we have concrete programs to help women, more especially the poorest of the poor, and also women in rural areas. If the people of South Africa can be wise enough to nominate or to elect us into positions as National Freedom Party candidates, we will ensure that we deliver basic services that are mostly needed by women in the rural areas and also women in all areas. We will ensure that there is no fraud and corruption in all the municipalities that will be led by the National Freedom Party.
Thank you.
And we will also ensure programs like fashion design, programs like community gardens, programs like the community gardens that are going to help women, more especially those who are poorest of the poor, mostly in rural areas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. The Minority Front's view.
Yes, thank you. In terms of those three questions, those are very important because the Minority Front is a very practical party. We don't just sit and theorize, and that's where most of the problem exists. But you are right. When you look at the police brutality, the one striking issue that is immediately seen is that women now, when their rights are being violated, when there is neglect of service delivery, they are going to take to the streets, they are going to protest. That's going to lead to conflict, that's going to lead to a lot of deaths, innocent deaths. The issue here is that we as politicians, when you see that, immediately you have to know that we are not doing enough. So in our parties, we had started a petition throughout all our offices, because we believe the petitioning system to Parliament is extremely important, because via petitions we have changed many laws that were insensitive to women in the case of grants, etc. So we know that works. But in case of domestic violence, the Minority Front has a constant partnership with the Department of Justice. We actually hold functions where we invite them into communities where we see police stats are very high, and we make sure that the paralegal services are there and that they assist our women with how to read forms, how to understand forms, but we also hold workshops with them so that we ourselves can sensitize them to making those forms more victim-friendly or client-friendly. But when it comes to women's movements, I think that's what you said. Women's movements, I have a big problem with the way women are moving in society currently. We know that we have women's brigades, we have women's leagues, etc. But I think that that is direct political association that women can have. But it doesn't make that great an impact. The greater impact is from civil society. So as a party, we work on the ground with already well-established NGOs, because if we have a good role model or piloted NGO, we then move it into a community that's not well structured so that we can help and empower other communities. This is a better way of extra parliamentary activity for women, because we need stronger civil movements of women in our country at this point in time. When we are women in Women's League and we sit in a cabinet, then we deny women a voice, and the issue there is the danger of a corporate state, because when women are ministers and they are parts of women's leagues, they don't have the political will or the cabinet buy-in for what they want to push forward, and that dilutes women's voice. So we must move away from a corporate state in South Africa, and we must move more towards lobbying groups, strong civil society groups for women.
Thank you very much. Well, we are going to take a very quick break. We'll be back right after this.
It's a make it work, make the boss happy, day in, day out. So much to do, gotta do it all now, world. You have to chase the dream, seal the deal, and make the money. But every now and then, it's good to leave that hectic world behind. But the things that really matter to you.
Don't you say that it's all the same.
Simply pour, pause, sip, and enjoy a Castle Milk Stout. Brewed from dark, quality roasted malt. To be sipped slowly so you can truly unwind. Castle Milk Stout. There's a journey in every moment.
Since I've been using Knorr Tasty 2-in-1 with added Robertson's, my food tastes so great. I've had to change a few things around here. Now my plates just aren't good enough. So I've changed them. Now my plates look so good. My tablecloths have to change. The food is so tasty, but everything must match the quality. It's amazing. Bring out your best with Knorr Tasty 2-in-1 because it has added Robertson's.
Impossible to get an autograph. I'll get it.
There's nothing impossible if you have a hero inside. Now there's a hero inside new Omo Multi-Active. Its max clean particles remove tough dried-in stains in one swift step. No more scrubbing and rubbing with bars.
You're my hero!
Omo. Dirt is good.
Coming up this week on the only show that will keep you entertained, Mzansi Insiders, Petro Tuli Tabeta, who's also known as Upinki from Zone 14, uzobe pendula all of imbuzo yethu in 30 seconds. We spent some time with the legendary Oskito, Tibo Touch, DJ Sped, DJ Naves. I'm talking about the Metro FM boys. City Shwile every state to find out which SABC shows are rocking that part of the world. Kanti ke ungakhohlwa ukuthi uMavusana Inja yakhona will be there with the blockbuster weekend movies. So 6:30 ngomsombuluko SABC1, don't miss it.
For sure.
Welcome back, and if you've just tuned in, you're watching and listening to a special election debate brought to you by the SABC in partnership with the University of Johannesburg. Tonight we're asking the question, just how serious is the commitment of our political parties in promoting women's rights and advancing gender equality? Let's come now to Penny Libyane. She is the host of Motswako, our sister channel SABC2's signature women's show. Penny, anything you want to ask or comment about? You've heard what these women had to say.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. For me, really, my comment firstly is women like the women who are sitting on the panel and women like ourselves who are sitting here belong to all sorts of organizations. We have voices to speak out, to represent ourselves and push forward our agendas and opinions. But there's a group of women who sit in rural South Africa who are voiceless. How are we making sure that in these positions and within these different parties, what sort of tangible steps and programs do we have in place to bridge the gap between the bankable and then bankable women, the mainstream women who have access to information and those who don't have, and those women are particularly right in the heart of the patriarchy that we talk about. They live within it on a daily basis, whereas me and you can actually come stand here and fight and win a few battles.
Thank you very much. Let's start with the minority front, Ms. Rajwansi.
Yeah, when it comes to rural women, that is a sore issue in this country. The digital divide is great, but I know telecommunications is working at investment in those areas. However, the important thing about rural issues is having focused programs on rural repopulation, because we know that we are sitting with rural depopulation, and that is why we are having slums, etc., in the urban city centers, and we are having crime and all kinds of things. But what we need to do is go to the basic needs policy, which is the policy now for food security. Food security is such a big problem in all around the world, and South Africa has so much of fertile land. The issue now, and the one that we are punting as a minority front, is move towards encouraging people to move back to rural communities, get spatial development into rural communities, keep rural communities where they're supposed to be, where they really do a good job, and they do save us in terms of food security, etc. So these are the things that we fight for, but these are in terms of legislation, policies and programs. These have to be done by tough politicians, and you have to have tough talking in certain committees. The committees are the committees for women and the quality of women in parliament. And I promise you, KwaZulu-Natal is a very rural province. We are doing an excellent job in our province, and it is because of tough women and this policy of moving away. Why say rural depopulation and then think, what do we do in the urban areas with all the problems that are occurring? Rather, look at it in hindsight. What an advantage if we go rural repopulation, basic needs analysis, where you do service delivery in the rural areas.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rural.
I fully agree with my sister there that when you look at women mostly in rural areas, there is a huge disparity between men and women, but also between women who are educated and women in senior positions than women in rural areas. Therefore, the National Freedom Party is saying, if people of this country can elect us into municipality, we will ensure that we take rural women on board. Firstly, we have to educate them. We have to empower them. But not meaning that because there is a notion that says if people have to be elected into positions, they have to be educated first if they are women. But men are just elected into positions, even if they are not empowered and educated. They will learn along the way. What we are saying, therefore, as the National Freedom Party, is that we will educate our women, because also there is a structural problem with us as women to look down upon ourselves, not to trust ourselves, not to be courageous, to stand for whatever positions, to be able to be in the decision where important decisions are taken. For instance, when lists were compiled in the National Freedom Party, we saw a list with all men, number 1 to up to 10, being men. We are saying as the National Freedom Party, we are sending back those lists because we want men to be included on the list. But also, when we go into the municipalities, we will ensure that we have concrete programs to help women. Because the people who are going long distances to fetch water is women. People who are dying of hunger are women. People who are dying of HIV and AIDS are women. People who have inequality in terms of education are women. Therefore, the service delivery that is being hampered by people who think of themselves more than the people on the ground is hampered. Therefore, as the National Freedom Party, we will ensure that the service delivery is not hampered, that there is no fraud and corruption, and that there are programs that are designed only for women, especially in rural areas.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, in the Democratic Alliance, we believe that bad delivery by the government is actually the vehicle that entrenches apartheid. It entrenches divisions, it entrenches racial divisions between the rich and the poor, it entrenches the disparity between men and women. And corruption and maladministration feeds bad government. So we believe that the start point is to make sure that government delivers efficiently to all the citizens under its care, and that includes in rural parts of South Africa where kids are still going to school in mud schools or going to school under trees. So the job of the government is to make sure it delivers properly those services which it is tasked with delivering in order to redress the imbalances of apartheid, redress the gender imbalances, and then start to empower people to go out and do for themselves. But I think there's an issue that we're dancing around here in respect of rural women, and that's the issue of culture and custom. And in fact, it reminds me of the time when Mantu Shabalala Msimang, when she was the minister in the presidency in charge of women, went to the Eastern Cape to investigate the issue of Uktwala, where young girls aged 14 were being forcibly taken or raped by men who were old enough to be their fathers as a perceived custom. And she slammed this practice and said it violated women's rights, it violated all of the principles in the Constitution that say we are equal to men. But in fact, when a report on that issue was tabled in Parliament, I remember the South African police dancing around the issue saying, no, we mustn't infringe on people's cultural heritage, we must make sure that we don't offend, on an issue about raping young girls. So I think in this country we need to have an honest discussion about where patriarchy really manifests. In the city of Johannesburg it does manifest. In Cape Town it does manifest. It is happening out in our rural parts of the country where women are at the behest of men and where they are still under the yoke of traditions which don't match our constitutional order. And it's a difficult, frightening discussion. But as Mantu Shabalala Msimang did before her passing, she initiated the discussion, and it's something that we in this country need to do in an honest way.
Thank you very much, ANC.
Thanking Penny for the views that she just raised. I guess changing mindsets would need to be part of the program. In fact, for us to be able to turn around rural areas, we need to be changing mindsets. My colleagues are speaking about culture and tradition. So unless people understand that culture and tradition doesn't mean that women need to be oppressed. Women need to be suppressed. So that is what we need to be working on. Issues of communication are very important. What do we communicate with rural women? How do we communicate with them? You know, should we be happy that they have cell phones? Do they even know how to operate those cell phones? So we need to be able to empower them, educate them, ensure that we communicate with them in the simplest language that they are able to understand. Issues of ensuring that basic service delivery that we are speaking about is brought closer to them. They don't have to be traveling kilometers to get water. Kids don't have to be traveling kilometers to go to school. So together as government And I'm going to continue to say NGOs. We need to be working in ensuring that the lives of these women and these kids in rural areas are changed. Because if we would want to stand there as the ANC and say as the ANC will manage to change people's lives, forgetting that we have CBOs, we have NGOs, we are really going to take a very long time. So my appeal is, as people vote, of course people would request people to vote for the ANC. We're not going to forget about that.
Thank you very much.
As we are asking people to vote for us, we are saying NGOs and CBOs must come and join in the partnership to ensure that we change the lives of rural women and kids as well.
Thank you very much. Well, we are going to take another quick commercial break, and this debate continues right after this.
Do you have a funeral policy?
If something happens to her, who do I call? Where do I start?
In difficult times, with difficult questions, AVBOB is the answer. If you want AVBOB to contact you, SMS TV and your name to 41790.
Well, I'm not famous yet, but I'm going to be. As soon as I matriculate, I'm going to go and study music and become a singer. It's not just the belief I have in myself, also the faith my community has in me.
Oh, she can sing. Bless her.
A ster, absoluut, ja. I'm just looking forward to making them proud. I love my neighborhood. I love my community. I love South Africa.
Love your South Africa. Vote 18 May, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Why uhlala uphika njalo nje? Emadlozi ebhekile.
Maybe she loves the boy.
No.
How can you love umuntu othandana nomngane wakho? Huh?
Gembule na every cent esinayo kasibili. Every cent. Build a better life for us.
Impilo enhle. Sayika impilo enhle. Uke wangizwa nje ngeminyanga elilodwa nje ngicomplain.
Welcome back, and if you've just tuned in, you're watching a special election debate brought to you by the SABC in partnership with the University of Johannesburg. Tonight we're asking the question, just how serious is the commitment of our political parties in promoting women's rights and advancing gender equality? Well, among us we do have Sivu Twabi, who is representing people opposed to women abuse. Sivu, what do you have to say to these women?
As we all know, in our country we have a very low conviction when it comes to hate crimes, when it comes to any violence against women. How are we going to do things differently? We know the structures are there, they're in place. We need concrete evidence, we need time frames. How are we doing things differently? We saw a lot of political will during the World Cup where courts were set up and cases were dealt with adequately at the time. How can we have those same measures put in place to deal with women who are killed because of their sexual orientation?
Let's start with the Democratic Alliance this time.
Yes, the issue of this all boils down to the reputation of our safety and security organs, the integrity of our safety and security organs, the integrity of our justice system. And until we get those basics right, until we make sure that we have specialized units that deal with these crimes in a specific way and address them in a way that makes it possible for women to come and report them, until we educate those people in government who are meant to deal with these matters so that they don't display ignorance when women who have been subjected to such horrors as corrective rape walk into police stations, until until we make sure that the public can have faith in our safety and security organs, the issue of violence against women is not going to be easy to tackle. And it begins at the top, the tone at the top. And in the past few weeks, including the incidents in Vicksburg, it's been very, very difficult for the South African public to have faith in the safety and security organs of this country and in the justice system in this country. And a lot of that has had to do with the politicization of the police, the politicization of the justice system, and in fact that ruling in the Constitutional Court that said that the Hawks' independence is in doubt is another layer that's added to the feeling amongst our people that they cannot trust the organs of justice in South Africa. So again, it's a delivery thing. The government has to take the necessary steps to clean up the police service, clean up the justice system, and make sure it educates the people who run these systems in order to address these crimes.
Thank you very much. ANC, you have exact 1 minute.
Well, I guess we would be disturbed by the low convictions, you know. But systems are there, policies are there. What remains is the onus is on us to ensure that we educate. You know, education. From time to time, we need to educate even the end users of these policies, even the women themselves. It's disturbing to get a woman who's been beaten by a boyfriend who would go and say, no, we've spoken now. I want to withdraw the case. We need to ensure that they understand that even if you have made peace in the home, you still need to continue with the case. That is, the onus is on us. It's on us as government, again, as with NGOs doing this work. I want to appreciate the work that Power is doing. They're ensuring that they're raising these issues. These issues are being debated, spoken about every day, because we have organizations like Power. But we need to ensure that our communities understand that all of us stand up against women abuse, we are against child abuse, and together we would, at the end of it all, prevail against such atrocities. But let us make people understand and know that as women, as kids, we have our own rights, and ensure that as communities, we protect these people. So that political parties, when they come to the fold.
Thank you very much.
So that when political parties come to the fold, at least there is proper community support to ensure that these issues are being taken to where they need to be taken.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kwadam Sibin. 1 minute, please.
I agree that there is still a huge women harassment and women abuse, more especially in rural areas. Yes, of course, our women need to be educated and empowered about their rights and that they need to go to the police. But also, there is a problem when women do go to the police because there is a lot of political interference in the work of the police and also of the justice system. I agree with my sister that it needs a lot of cleanup so that people, when they go there, they will also come back with their integrity intact. They are not going to be abused also emotionally by the police at the polling station, because that is also happening in most of the police stations.
Thank you very much. Please respond.
Abuse is a very wide issue. It is much talked about, but we have to look at what is in place and we have to work with that, because we have a lot of things, a lot of structures there, and we have to know them in order to help women better. What we do as a political party is that we continuously bring about awareness on different issues, because abuse can range from murder to crimes against women to trafficking, rape, incest, all kinds of issues, financial abuse, even of the educated women. And unfortunately, women just don't have it easy whichever way you are, educated or not. So the most important thing to do is, when you're a parliamentarian or a councillor, you make sure that more money is put into victim empowerment. We make sure that that is how budgeting has to be done in a gender-sensitive manner. But also, we have a special directorate now, or a ministry for women affairs. We would like to see, even as a minority front, that this ministry takes this issue forward, because it has to be a coordinated approach at all levels of government.
Thank you very much. Now, I want to go back to our panel. You've heard what the politicians who are standing here had to say. I just want I'm going to give you 30 seconds each to just make some concluding remarks about the sort of things you would like them and their colleagues in their political parties to take account of as we go into this election and beyond. Let me start with you, Penny.
Okay, for me, can it just not be a talk shop because we have women in positions? It should not be about we hear me and a group of us who are educated, that there are real issues that women are battling with on a daily basis, especially women who don't have voices, who just really want to put bread on the table, to get water, to be able to bath and take care of their kids and their families and get a good education for their children. That in those positions that you occupy as a woman, whether you're in parliament or in business, that always remember that you represent a group of people who would like to see and hear their voices being represented on a daily basis.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Gabi?
Going back to what Penny has just said, we need to make sure that there are time frames. We need to know that this is going to happen at this point. We don't have any concrete plans as to when all of these are going to be put in place. We need to know, as we stand here today, that it's all in black and white, but when is it going to be put into action?
Thank you very much. Lisa?
I would really urge you, because you are in positions of power, to make sure that you take all those disempowered, voiceless women with you. Your positions are not there to benefit you yourselves, but should be there to benefit all women in South Africa. So I want to reiterate, we want to start seeing from all of you what portion of your budget is going to addressing and putting in place women's programs. When are you doing this by? We want far more concrete action, I think, from your manifestos. Reading your manifestos, they put forward very little that is concrete and tangible in terms of improving women's lives. And I think in particular we want to hear some very concrete proposals and policies from you as to how you are going to close the wage gap between men and women and the unemployment gap between men and women.
Thank you very much. And that's where we have to end tonight's debate, unfortunately. Join us next Sunday on SABC1, SAFM and SABCnews.com for the next debate in the series, which is brought to you by the SABC, the national public broadcaster, in association with the University of Johannesburg. You can send your questions, suggestions and comments to elections@sabc.co.za, elections@sabc.co.za. Have a very good night.